listeners, welcome to the MedReach podcast by MedReach Knowledge Sharing Forum, top notch talk with healthcare experts. I'm your host Roshna. Let me give you a quick insight about what is MedReach Knowledge Sharing Forum. We are the only forum to focus on healthcare management knowledge sharing. Our forum helps you to connect with healthcare industry experts. MedReach Knowledge Sharing Forum is the right place to share best practices, interesting queries and articles respect to the healthcare field. This episode, to join with us, we have Mr. Devendran Mohandas. He's a project management consultant for the healthcare infrastructure with 20 plus years of experience in delivering business value in healthcare and industrial sector through project management, business analyst, financial planning, corporate strategy, and acquisition planning. Warm welcome to the MedReach podcast, Mr. Devendran. How are you doing?
Thank you, Roshna. I'm fine. How are you?
Yeah, I'm so good. So, I have given a brief about yourself. It would be great if you elaborate on the same for us by giving your self introduction.
Thank you, Roshna. Uh, Greetings to all. My name is Devendran Mohandas. I'm a mechanical engineer with post graduation in marketing management. And as well as I'm a fellow in Insurance Institute of India in the general insurance category. After about 9 years of project management and engineering industry, I came to healthcare and I have handled a lot of interesting projects, both at the project level and the corporate strategies in the last 15 plus years of my tenure. For various hospitals and technologies from concept to commissioning. Wonderful experiences and insights from being a resident project coordinator for a 530-bed hospital in UP, to coordinating India's first integrated cyclotron bed city project, as well as planning a set of integrated medical college complexes and evaluation of hospitals for investment by reputed financial institutions.
That was really a great and vast, unique experience you have. So, moving on to the questions. Constructions of primary and secondary and tertiary hospitals, how it is different from each other, and what are all the major factors involved in it? Could you share with us?
Let's talk about secondary and beyond, as primary may not require very great level of infra planning as far as India is concerned. Primary care is majorly limited to a simple clinic kind of setup. Coming back to the secondary and tertiary care, we have to have a clear vision of how the project should be positioned in the next 10 years in terms of clinical specialties, matching clinical and support facilities, engineering utilities, and their technological upgradation or obsolescence over a period of time, replacement requirements, adequately trained and skilled manpower to operate such equipment. In addition, we also should have the knack of adhering to ever-changing regulations and requirements in order to be relevant in the industry, in addition to embracing the optimal technological advancements. In simple words, the master plan of what, how, and when, and why should be envisioned prior to the start of the first project itself. Any change that could be carried out in the concept stage would cost less as compared to the advanced stage, and in some cases, the project would have consumed the major investment already. That would need a lot of time and energy to see the end of the tunnel to be useful to anyone. The promoter should have the S curve of the project transition in the mind, always so as to strategize the progress appropriately. The S curve specifies at what stage how much of investment has been spent and how much more is required and what is the time left. So that will be a great tool for any promoter to plan their strategies. These are all the major in the secondary and tertiary care hospital plan.
Great, that's a really nice share. So moving on for the next questions. What are all the governing bodies exist for approval of hospital constructions?
This approval is a great subject in India. For answering straight to this question, the list is large and vary project to project. No one solution fits every project. Among the various regulatory bodies, first and foremost is the building plan approval from local bodies where there are a lot of rules to be followed, as well as obtaining other NOCs to get the final one. Many of them are multi-stage, that is for establishment and then to operate. For each and every regulatory requirement has to be fulfilled, one wish to go for accreditation by national or international bodies. And once the second stage of operational NOCs or licenses are obtained, many of them are to be renewed frequently with varying timelines. It is high time the government and appropriate regulatory bodies bring in regulations to streamline and make it single window clearances, enabling hospital operators to concentrate on clinical delivery. Uh, Having said that, this a multi-stage approach has to be somewhat is not a very well liked in the industry. We have to go for a single window clearances. You need approvals at local level, that is a local body level, that is maybe in the corporation or the municipality level. Or say, for example, if you take Chennai, we have a Chennai Metropolitan Development Authority. If you are outside Chennai, you got to go for Directorate of Town and Country Planning. Like that, each and every state has a different levels of planning permission authorities. And even in DTCP, there are local planning authorities headed by district collectors, and there are so many other agencies are there. If you have to apply for building permission, first you have to get, say, for example, in one project you have to get National Highway Authority, no objection. In some other project, you have to get Airport Authority, no objection. In some other places, we may even for cutting the road, trees on the side, we have to get the permissions. Like that, there are so many levels. In one of the projects, we have faced a huge setback because the HT line was passing through in the middle of the site. So we have to move that HT line outside so that we can do anything, any development within the project. So like that, each and every site and also every location of the site has a different requirement. When I say different requirement, it is not entirely different. There are some additions and some deletions. That way it goes.
Nice. So it depends upon the area and it's nearby the bodies.
Correct. And before you select the site itself, we have to see what are the type of approval that may be required for that particular site. That will help us in planning and moving forward faster.
So moving on to the next question. Starting a hospital from the scratch, that is like greenfield hospitals, is different. But what are all the challenges was faced during construction of brownfield hospitals? Can you share your experiences on this?
Okay, this is an important question, as many promoters may not find adequate land parcels to start their projects within their catchment areas. Hence, how to settle for a building that may be available, already constructed, or it may have to be repurposed for the requirement. Even if the land parcel is available, the gestation period to design, obtain building plans, and start the project is getting longer and longer every day. The challenges in the brownfield hospitals are selecting the appropriate building that could fulfill the requirement envisioned. Say, for example, for a hospital, it is said that hotel building are more appropriate. However, the word of caution is that the hotels are not designed for the high occupancy and ever moving traffic within the hospital, and the ingress and egress of patients to and fro outside as well as within the various levels of the building. And I say various levels between ground to the topmost floor and all that. Many people say it is in a hospital you will see the staff moving always, in addition to some of the patients and some of the attendants and all that. So the major requirement for movement is a ramp, which is a must in India nowadays. The ramp also has some specifications and the gradient which has to be fulfilled, and the ramp has to cover from the ground floor to the topmost by design. You can see many hospitals, they may not have the ramp because the building was not designed for the hospital. This is in addition to that, even the simplest staircase has to have a certain dimensions. The corridors, more importantly, the corridors where the patients are moving, it has to be 2.4 meter width. That may not be available in many buildings, whether they have been designed for a hotel. Having said that, another important factor to consider is the floor loading. The major structural design for a hospital, we need a little higher strength. If for example, even in a normal building, we may not be able to keep a CT scan machine. Forget about MRI machine in a normal floor. We have to strengthen that from the bottom. It is not in the ground floor. Like that, there are various factors that we have to look in. Even this, some equipment. If we are not able to put some kind of those kind of an equipment in that building, then we may have to replan our clinical specialties itself. For example, if you are not able to put a CT machine, then we may not put the radiology department in that building. We may have to move that radiology department to another building or elsewhere. So like that, floor height is less than 12 feet. Fixing up a good theater is going to be a challenge. Not that we cannot do theater in less than that height, but there will be a lot of compromises you have to put. And if you have to put laminar flow in the theater, we need to have some kind of a we have to have sufficient height to accommodate people moving in within the theater. So like that, there are so many factors that we have to see, and then only we can select a brownfield building as such. Not every building will be suitable for planning a hospital in that particular building, unless otherwise it is designed for a hospital.
Well, answering like you told, hotels can be also converted into hospitals, if I'm right.
Yeah. When you are converting the hotels, you have to look for so many things like a ramp, whether you can establish a ramp, whether you can establish 2.4-meter corridor, floor to floor height is adequate. Like that, you have to see a lot of important factors to select before you select the building.
So, putting forward an example, recently happened an incident in Telangana. I don't know how much of them are aware. The hotels were converted into the hospital, and it was fired due to some reason, and all the patients waited. So, what would be the major lag you think where why it was happened?
See,
As you are in
fire to happen, there are so many reasons. They might not, without getting into the specific reason, we should not comment. Uh, See, and this anything that is done for corona treatment, they must have done a simple ICU or a normal bed configuration only. But still, hotel planning is hotel planning, and hospital planning is a different. See, for a temporary purposes, yes, you can make it, but not for a long-term projects. Even if the fire has happened because of electrical short circuiting, that means the electrical lines must not have been laid properly, or might not have been connected properly. There are so many reasons behind electrical short circuit.
Okay. So yeah, maybe that could be also the reason. There are a number of reasons that we couldn't.
A number of reasons are there. Yeah.
So moving on to the next question. What are all the main areas focused for cost saving in hospital constructions?
Cost saving, okay. See, cost saving is of two types. One is saving during the capital expenditure itself, and another one is during operational time. We should look for a lifetime cost of the building or the project, and not a short-term objective. Cost saving in civil construction can be achieved by having faster way of constructing the building, like prefabricated buildings or precast technologies. We can incur a little more extra cost, but we will be in a position to commence the project faster so that we get the revenue. So that also should be considered as a cost saving, in my opinion. Secondly, there should be judicious way of procuring major equipment, energy engineering equipment, or even medical equipment, where we should have energy saving potential to be kept in mind. Then another one is there must be a reduction of movement of staff between floors, encouraging staircases to climb up, providing new technologies like say pneumatic tube system, and similar equipment that are available, so that movement of material and men is reduced in a greater extent. Cost saving is as such word, but at the same time it has to be judiciously applied. It's just like that we cannot have it. You have to have a lot of factors like okay, today I'm going to construct so much of square feet. How much cost reduction I have to see, like that we should not approach. We should have a longer horizon. That's how it has to be approached.
Okay. As you were like mentioning about energy saving, all those things, isn't it coming under the concept of greenfield hospitals, which is like recently popping up? Have you been inside any of these projects, and can you share what is the concept behind it, the green hospital concept?
See, the green concept is promoting self-sufficiency for utilities such as energy, water, as well as generating near zero pollution of noise, air, and water. Few hospitals in India have obtained green certifications. It's a growing or a niche concept. We have to study a lot of factors before a decision that can be taken in applying the green concept. But whatever said and done, green concept is a good concept. Engineers and architects are supposed to design any building to use less energy and less polluting to the environment. So it's not a new concept, but at the same time, it is applied in a newer way, we can say that.
Fine. How pandemic has affected in planning of new hospitals? What is the impact of pandemic on healthcare construction projects? Can you share some of the points?
According to me, there is a temporary or short-term demand for more beds and related equipment. It may not be correct to create permanent beds in large numbers just to address the pandemic situation. Beds alone does not make hospital function. We need a matching medical and paramedical professionals and supporting staff. We have double whammy impact due to this pandemic. One side, everyone is praying for beds, but on the other side, recruitment of professionals could not happen as they are simply not available. Medical professionals catching corona, their medical professionals' demise adds to the woes of existing infrastructure due to reduced availability of professionals to manage existing beds. Having said that, India has to do a lot more to match with the global requirement of 3 beds per thousand, including that of matching the medical and paramedical manpower. Whatever said and done for our population, we need more hospitals, but not at the way the things are happening right now because of the pandemic. That is my take.
To move more side on the infrastructures and all. China was fast in constructing the hospitals, but in India, non-clinical buildings were being transformed to the COVID ward. And how effective was this?
Talking about the conversion, it's a temporary measure. That's how we will take. But as I said in the previous question, we should not jump to create more beds in the pandemic situation, but we have to have a permanent structure. Pandemic situation, whatever we are creating may not be permanent. Should, but we have to see through what we are doing, and we may have to address that pandemic situation. At the same time, we also need to address the future demand. If you see like how China has constructed the hospital, no hospital can be built in such a way unless otherwise the planning was done long back, and they keep the material and the men ready to build. It's not. It's a humongous effort to have that kind of a hospital building set up at a very faster pace. But the planning must have had must have happened long back. So like that, we have to have a proper situation. Even in the previous in one of the question I said, we have to plan for 10 years horizon, not just in 1 year or 2 year horizon. It is not only applicable for one project; it is applicable for the entire country also. Our population is ever growing, and our the age factor of our population is also changing day by day. So we have to take into account all these factors and plan for our new projects. Just like that, only if you take only the pandemic situation, I will take it as a temporary phenomenon. Maybe it may last for 1 year or 2 year or whatever, but it is not going to go for the 10 year. That horizon I'm mentioning about 10 years period and all that. So we have to have a long-term vision that we have to break it into short-term requirement. And if anything like this pandemic situation has come in, we have to address that situation then and there itself. And then come to that. We have to do the course correction and come to our long-term vision. That's how it has to be. You cannot just keep on uh, harping on the pandemic situation and create temporary beds and forget about the long-term vision. That's my take.
Yeah, we shouldn't stick on the same temporary things.
Yeah, that's what pandemic situation is creating a temporary demand. That temporary demand will go in 1 year or 2 year or whatever. Thereafter, again, we will face the same situation like what we are facing now. We have in India we have about less than 1 bed per thousand population, whereas the WHO is recommending 3 bed per thousand population. Where are we? So we have to see that, and we have to do our course correction for that to address that particular not temporary.
So this could be the eye-opening situations for many of the
Yes.
hospital construction. Yeah. Uh, so what is your message to the field in this to the people who are in this field and those who are aspiring to come into this field in future?
Okay. See, if you have a vision for the next 10 years and break it down for the short term goals, and one by one you start achieving and go for it. Once we say healthcare and education are sunshine sectors, and this pandemic has changed that situation. But it is going to come back to the pre-COVID situation very soon, and there will be a lot of requirements, new projects, and the people demand will change from COVID treatment to general treatment. People may not go to the hospital immediately, but ultimately they will have to go for any other procedure or so. If at all anything, outpatients may be happening in a technological way, but rest of the other things like medical, even medical admissions and medical admissions may happen soon. Start happening soon. And the surgical, of course, we don't have any other option but to go to hospital for any kind of surgery. So we have to plan for those kind of things.
It's a nice message. So we are at the end of the podcast. Final question.
Yeah.
Which is your favorite book?
Okay. See, I am a project management person, and one doctor has put the proper. We can say that how we approach the project management situations. The checklist manifesto by Dr. Atul Gawande. This is a fantastic book for any project manager, and how we approach each and every problem, how we should address each and every situation. I have taken a lot of inspiration from that the checklist manifesto.
Yeah, it's from your field. That's really nice.
Yes.
So, all through your experience and journey, who are the persons inspired you so much? Who's your inspiration?
Inspirations. There is a long list, but I will have to mention certain people apart from my parents and my family. Mr. Dilip Kumar, who was my first ever boss when I came into the corporate world, he taught me a lot of things and how to remain firm and real in a corporate world. He only taught me. And of course, Dr. T.C. Reddy is a great visionary who changed the landscape of treatment in India and made foreigners look to India to get their treatment, even though they spend very significantly less. And he's a pioneer in a lot of new technologies, including proton therapy. I had a chance to work with him for a few years. Of course, then Dr. Abdul Kalam for everything on a 360-degree plane. And I will be missing many things, but I think I can stick to this three people.
Nice. You also have a unique pickup of your inspiration. So, yeah, that's all we have done with the podcast. Thank you so much for joining in MedReach podcast and sharing your knowledge with us today.
Thank you to MedReach.
Thank you so much, sir. Bye bye. Hello, listeners. If you have any doubt regarding this episode, follow the topic in our MedReach Knowledge Sharing Forum. Thank you for listening. Hope you all enjoyed the session. Keep gaining the knowledge with healthcare industry expert by MedReach podcast through MedReach Knowledge Sharing Forum. Until the next episode, take care.